Hey, this is Dale Tinsley. You're listening to the Connect podcast. Our purpose is to guide you to connect with yourself so that you can connect with others and live a life of meaning and value. Continuing the series, Connecting with Ourselves. Peace be with you. Welcome back to another episode. Today's episode is about ego. And for the conversation, I wanted to bring in somebody who has inspired me. I've read a lot of his stuff. He's a profound thinker, has delved deep into the ego, and he's kind enough to come on and share some of his thoughts and perspectives with us and part of his journey. Introduce you to Bryan Matoye. Blessed to have him, and really appreciate you being here, man, and sharing some of your journey and spending some time with the Connect family.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Okay, awesome. So you want to just kind of give us a little bit of how everything started to happen for you and your awakening and...
Yeah, back in 2016, I had a pretty profound awakening, spiritual awakening, and my whole view on this reality started to change. I was looking at everything from a different lens, and yeah, it was pretty intense at times. Came into the realization about my own ego,
right on,
which is pretty scary. Because the ego can't see itself, so you don't recognize it in yourself in the beginning. But yeah.
Okay. So during that time, how did it all come about? Like, what shook you up, or what brought it on?
I started experiencing a lot of synchronicities, especially with numbers. I was seeing 1111 all the time, 444, 222. All the numbers, you name it, I was seeing it, and it was pretty constant to the point where it was bringing me anxiety because I had no clue what was going on.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know what was happening to me. And so then, you know, once I delved into the numerology aspect of it and started really, you know, finding more information out on the numbers themselves and realizing that we do get signs from the universe constantly, but we just don't notice them. So
right.
That's when my whole reality started to change. I was looking at everything a lot differently, and I became more creative. I tapped into a creative side that I had no clue that I even had. I picked up painting. I started drawing again, which I stopped at 13, and all of a sudden I just picked it up again, and yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Wow. Yeah. So like no one to guide you. Did you get turned on to like any books or anything about self-discovery or the ego, or that kind of came to you, you know?
Yeah. I started to have this overwhelming need or desire to learn about topics that I had no interest in before. Energy, vibration, frequency, consciousness, the subconscious, ego, all these topics that I had no interest in.
The foundation for what you needed, right?
Yeah, and it just happened so organically. I honestly couldn't explain to you how it all happened. It was very spiritual and very based on the universe and what was, you know, the change that was happening within me. It was happening on my outer reality. It was reflecting it.
Yeah, it's like you were drawing it to you, and then it started synchronizing. Everything started gravitating towards you, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and a lot of, you know, I started noticing toxic traits within myself that needed to be changed. And, you know, and it changed in a way that, like, even the people places that I was going to, like a lot of toxic places, like going to bars, hanging out, partying all the time. That started to change within me, and it was like kind of fading out of my life, and I didn't want to do that any longer. It was wearing me down, and I didn't realize how much it was.
Did you feel out of balance? So those things start coming towards you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel out of balance, and then you kind of subconsciously made those decisions, or you just felt it and just moved in a different direction?
Yeah, it all happened organically. The partying and not drinking all the time, but even that part like faded out of my life, and on an unconscious and conscious level.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to? Awesome. That's amazing, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to get into let's dig into the ego and for the audience to reflect, and I'm not going to say we have all of those traits, but the list and the conversation that we're about to get into, everybody watching this, can relate to a good bit of them for sure.
Yeah.
Want to get into some of the ones that hit you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that ego is just comprised of vanity, and it's so much more than that. There's well over 80 ego traits.
Okay.
Not to say that we all embody every single one of those. It's the ego is a programming. It's the ego program mind, and ego stands for edging God out. Ego is like our false sense of self, and it holds a veil in between our higher self and the false sense. And but yeah, there's well over 80 traits of the ego. So I mean, I did want to bring up just a few of the basic, more commonly known traits that many people probably won't connect to being ego traits.
Okay. So what traits do you want to bring up?
There's vanity, jealousy, arrogance, attachment to people, places, and things. A lot of people are attached to people in their lives, and they use that as a comfort zone because you feel like you never can be by yourself, and like being by yourself and being alone is actually where you make the most growth in life. Yeah. And being attached to places and things, it's all related to comfort zones, and that's what the ego thrives on, is all comfort zones. It never wants you to step outside of them, so you can learn, grow, and expand. Another one is taker energy, which is taken from the planet or taken from other people. Entitlement, we all know what that what that is, and self-importance, which I think entitlement and self-importance kind of go hand in hand with one another. The need to be right all the time, controlling, ungratefulness, taking no accountability or responsibility for any wrong actions that we take.
Sure, no accountability.
Yeah. Being fake, which is the inability to be genuine, which leads to compulsive lying. Compulsive lying, just lying in general, is an ego trait. Procrastination, lack of self-love, lack of compassion, lack of integrity, lack of empathy, which to me, the lack of empathy coincides with narcissism and narcissistic traits. Which that's like a whole nother
story. Deeper dive into it's a more uniformed ego, right? He's dressed up and
yeah, definitely. The complete lack of empathy. It's and ego, I think, is probably the biggest disease on this planet.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And the biggest disease that most people are unaware that they even have, and we all have it, and Connect is about working through it to get to our genuine selves and have the courage to face ourselves and to see those traits within us and deconstruct them.
Definitely.
You know, as you were going through that list, the one that really hit me was love. Like, and I, you know, I think the ego is all about division and just me, and I got this, and all of my needs and chaos that the ego creates. But the absence of love, I think, just kind of is really what that ego and that mask pulls us from, you know, because if we had love, then we would have at least some kind of connection to ourselves, which I think we do, right? I mean, the ego runs the show for people that are unaware or their awareness is low, but they still have that love there. That true self is still there, and he comes up every once in a while fighting for his space, and the ego is trying to push him out the way. You know, the battle.
Yeah.
But as you were going through that list, you know, I still embody some of those. I mean, maybe not all of them because I've dismantled them, but I'm not going to say that they're not, you know, buried somewhere within myself, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the ego is the ultimate trickster, for sure, and all we can really do is raise our awareness and just be honest with ourselves, you know. And I think once you walk through that door of truth and you see ego within yourself, you know, and you know that's a lie, that's not who I am.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think once you notice the ego operates when we live in the past or the future. In the past, you know, if we're living in the past, we can fall into depression. If we're living in the future, you can fall into having anxiety all the time. So that's when the ego can really come through, and you give more power to it in those moments, and that's when it really thrives and it can take over. But if you're in the present moment, the ego can't get to you. That's when your higher self is really present. It's when you're in the present moment, and the ego will be the trickster, and it will come through and it will try to snatch you out of the moment and take over, and it can lead you in all kinds of directions you don't want to go in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is man, great conversation.
Yeah.
You know. So thank you again for coming. Eckhart, for me, you know, along the journey of learning from everybody and picking up, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Yeah.
You know, gives me chills right now. I don't know if y'all can see him, but God, Eckhart Tolle is powerful, and The Power of Now is powerful. You guys need to check that out. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now is just one of many that Eckhart Tolle has released. You can look him up on YouTube. He's got a lot of amazing content. But what would you recommend to stay grounded? You know, and we're early on in the Connect journey. You know, this episode here. So people are aware of their ego now, maybe, and maybe some useful guidance for them to stay grounded and stay in the present.
Yeah. Really, it's like noticing when you're being pulled out of the present moment. You know, meditation can help with that. And it doesn't have to be you meditating, sitting, you know, with your legs crossed, and
Right.
you know, it doesn't have, whatever keeps you grounded and in the present moment, which could be artwork, it could be cleaning, it could be anything that really, you know, keeps you in that moment. Doesn't have to be meditation, but yeah,
different. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Meditation's good to really focus, but for some people, cutting the grass is meditation. You know,
and drawing for me and doing artwork, that's meditation for me.
So when do you think the ego starts to manifest, and how does it manifest, and at what age for us?
I would say between the ages of 2 to 6. I did a lot of studying on brain waves and how it does play a part in the programming of the ego. you have different brain waves. You have the delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Delta comes in at the ages of 0 to 2 years of age. So that's like the slowest brainwave frequency. It's the theta wave is when our brains are picking up everything around us. And as adults, the only time that our brains are operating in theta wave is when we're in sleep mode or dream state. And if you ever notice, like if you've fallen asleep with the TV on before and you go into dream state, you may start picking up things that you were watching from the TV. So they'll start coming into your dream state. It's because you're in that theta wave and you're picking up all of that.
Sound.
In your surroundings. So during the theta wave as a child, you're picking up everything. And that's when I believe like your ego is actually being programmed. That's when it starts kicking into gear.
Okay, interesting. So we've laid out some content, some conversation, and touched on a bunch of points with this pesky ego that we all have. Whew. It's tiring, you know, the ego will just run you like a ragged doll. Let's get into some solutions.
Okay.
Preventative solutions.
Yeah.
All of that.
It really boils down to self-awareness. And when you actually look at each trait and you actually hone in on each one and see where it comes into play within your everyday life, that's when you can begin to diminish these traits within you. They will keep coming up over and over again in your everyday life, but the more that you hone in on them and you're more self-aware of each trait that's within you, you can begin to transmute that energy. And each trait is just an energy, it's just a frequency. And you can change that frequency within you just through self-awareness. If like you take the more common trait of vanity or jealousy, or even arrogance within you, say, you know, if you have a friend that you're jealous of, but you're not really picking up on it consciously, but once you're aware that you do have that ego trait within you, you can transmute that, you can recognize it within you, and you can transmute that energy really quick. And it'll probably come up again and again and again.
Oh, sure.
And the more that you recognize it within you, that frequency just changes to the point where it's not there anymore. Yeah. And that goes for any ego trait.
So for yourself, did you reflect on, you know, any of those traits once you saw them? Did you sit with them and just kind of run it through your head, like, where's this coming from? Why? You know, for me it was the why. I had to get to the root of it to really get that shovel and dig them out, and then get a blowtorch and you know, and then ultimately you think it's gone because you hit it with the blowtorch, having really done the work, layers and layers. Like you said, it'll keep coming back. You know, until you really get to that root.
There's always those residuals that are they're still there. But yeah, the more that you recognize it, and I had to do that. I had to really sit down with each one and reflect on each trait. And the more that I did that, the more I was able to recognize it in my everyday life when it was coming up within me. And that's how, you know, it's just doing the inner work to really change that frequency within you.
No doubt.
And it's all about self-awareness, you know, and really knowing when the ego comes through to snatch you out the present, or, you know, it starts pulling in these ego traits, which lack of self-love was a big one for me. That was a huge one. So I did have to learn how to love myself and treat myself better, and to not be so judgmental about myself.
On yourself.
Yes, yeah. When, you know, if I was in my ego or operating out of my ego, not to really judge myself on that, you know, just to learn and grow from it.
Yeah, I did an episode on self-love, which was 2 parts. The first one was I just went into love and all the layers of love. You know, to have self-love, you gotta and people have different ideas of what they think self-love is. You know, so right on.
Yeah, I feel like when you operate from your heart space, the ego can't get to you. So the more that you operate from that space of love within, and you love yourself, you will attract other situations of love. You know, you'll attract better people in your life, better situations and experiences that reflect that.
No doubt. And yeah, and operating from that and from the heart and staying present, it generates energy. You know, and it starts there, and it comes up into that like organic, natural, true, authentic smile. You know, and you're happy, and you can handle challenges that are going to be thrown at us constantly better. You know, staying grounded, staying in your authentic self, and boy, it's work to get there, though.
Yeah.
You know,
the ego it's an energy taker. That's how it thrives, because it takes from others. And once you recognize that and change that within you, it really does start to reflect in your outer reality.
Amen.
Yeah.
What effect do you think the ego has on our bodies? You know, because it's mental, right? The ego is all in our head, but for me, the synchronicity, mind, body, spirit, you know, that ego wreaks havoc on the other 2 layers. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Because the ego can pull you out of the present moment, and whether it makes you start living in the past or the future, you know, that, like I said earlier, it pulls in depression and anxiety, and that can wreak havoc on your immune system. And even in circumstances where the ego wants you to attach to comfort zones, whether that be drugs, alcohol, shopping, sex, you know, that can all have a huge effect on the physical vessel.
Yeah, and like you were saying previously, keep us detached or not allow us to truly connect with our higher power, right? And our authentic self also tied into that. I love the conversation, man. I mean, as people become self-aware and they become self-aware of their ego, you want to get into some conversation about how other people, you know, can aggravate us because they have egotistical traits, and you know, we share those same traits, right? And a lot of people don't make that correlation. I've mentioned it in some of the journal work that I've written out, but you know, when somebody aggravates you or they're quote unquote triggering you, that is something you have within yourself, you know, that maybe you need to deal with. You want to get into some of that? Yeah,
the ego, it can't see itself, so it can only see itself through self-awareness, for one, and then through the reflection of others. So, like for example, if you get into an altercation with someone, the best way to handle that is to respond instead of react. But if you react, then the other person reacts. It becomes dysfunction mirroring dysfunction. So it's ego versus ego, and it just gets, it's like a battlefield.
Of egos.
Yeah, battlefield of egos.
Carnage, pure destruction. No thought though, right? And that's what the reaction is, right? We did an episode on emotional intelligence, right? So that reaction comes, and the reaction will come at all of us, you know, depending on the situation. The reaction, you get hit with that ego, boom, right? You're stimulated. We saw through it, let the energy, let the thought pass, let the ego, and then it leaves, and then you react with thought.
Yeah, and you know, it's just about being triggered. You know, triggers can be treasure. if you recognize that you're being triggered. But the ego can sometimes, like, you know, push you away from recognizing those triggers. And it's through those triggers that you can really hone in and transform those traits within you. But when other people are triggered by you, it's because you're mirroring something back to them. And yeah, it can be pretty intense for both parties involved.
Yeah, right on. So as you were saying that, I had the thought of like happy people, people that are genuine and happy. So if someone is annoyed by you, is it because they envy the energy that you have, you think? And we're just having conversation, you know, but so is it maybe that they lack self-love and like being genuine, do you think? What do you think about that?
I definitely feel that way. And that energy being existent within the other person will trigger that within the person that's getting triggered. And it can rile them up, and they won't even know that that's what's occurring within them, that it's something that they're lacking within them, and it's triggering them.
Yeah,
and it triggers their ego.
Yeah, and then their ego will use something like, I don't like his shoes, or I don't like the way they talk, which is so surface, right? And that's how the ego keeps, because the ego's not going to say, well, that person looks happy and they have love and they have things going for them, right? And so the ego won't, you won't see that reality. You'll just be like, yeah, that person annoys me. They stay on the surface, right?
Yeah,
the ego just wants to stay on the surface and artificial.
And that's when that jealousy ego trait comes out in a situation like that.
Yeah. It's way deeper than that, though. Way deeper than the jealousy. It's a void. Right?
Yeah, definitely. And a lack of self-love within that person.
Yeah. Wow. Profound. What inspires you, Bryan?
Art does. And just the journey itself can be inspiring at times. It can be a lot to deal with in others. But yeah, I would say artwork and being creative is what really inspires me. Because if I can't be creative, I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
That's part of your purpose, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and helping other people, especially with this, awareness of the ego. A lot of people may be triggered by it, but, I think that helping other people is, the main reason why I do this. So,
Amen.
yeah.
Amen. So you love doing art, you love giving back and spreading awareness and helping people with ego work and things like that. What do you have going on in the city here in New Orleans?
Well, I'm also involved with a nonprofit. It's a legit 501(c)(3). It's called Lifting Honduras, and you can go to liftinghonduras.org. And our objective is to help the children of Honduras and their educational needs, to make sure that they have the resources needed for them to really excel in life. And any donation we're grateful for anything.
Awesome.
So. Awesome.
Do you have any projects coming up in the future with your art? Or I know we had discussed that you were writing also.
Yeah, I'm in the process of writing and illustrating spirit animal coloring books, and for kids. It's also for kids as well, but really probably right around the age of 16 and up, because of the content. It's very spiritual in nature. I have spiritual messages in there as well. So yeah, that's in the process. It's been a long journey with that as well, because it's been an organic one, and I'm allowing it to happen organically.
Amen.
So, yeah.
That's yeah. Whew, yeah, this has been all organic here,
Yeah.
you know, for sure. So, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think choosing that route is the best way because the preparation is there, the timing is there, and then the synchronicities come together, you know, and we're able to enjoy the journey more.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure.
Trying not to force anything with the books and just letting it happen organically.
Okay. The website one more time for the Honduras help?
It's liftinghonduras.org.
Liftinghonduras.org.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'm really grateful to have you. Very stimulating conversation, as I knew it would be.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Just such a blessing to have you on to be able to share with our audience. And we'll stay in touch, obviously, and much love, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. Bryan Metoyer here in New Orleans. One more time, the website?
Liftinghonduras.org.
Liftinghonduras.org for any help would be beneficial for the education of the catrachos. People from Honduras, they're called catrachos in Spanish. Little fun fact there to share with you. As always, you can go to theconnection.studio. And I got one of these made to show you since we're having a conversation on ego. This is a good reminder. Long sleeve, I'll be sporting this one. Also, you can check out all the journals and get caught up on that if you need to. We appreciate your time. Bryan, thank you for stopping by. What a blessing, my friend. God bless you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. God bless. Thanks for joining us at the Connection Studio. You can support us by sharing with others and posting to social media. Keep doing the internal work, as it will truly make all the difference. God bless.